Greetings, everyone. Wouldn't it be great, when you find yourself at real low ebb and you think like, man, everything's a bit of a struggle and there's just one thing after another. If maybe we could find a way of getting through that, finding those qualities that kind of like give us that little bit of steel, that little bit of resolve, but in a way that fills our heart with beautiful love, that we can carry on through those hard times. Is such a thing possible? We're going to investigate and see if we can find out. Let's start with a haiku before we really into the nitty-gritty. Don't surrender yet, for in the midst of a trial, you may find a way. So when we find ourselves in a storm, we kind of like find ourselves resolved, don't we, to carry on, to keep on going. And because what's the alternative? The alternative is to flounder, isn't it? And just kind of like give up. And part of our nature, it just won't have that. We're just going to keep persevering, keep going on, keep finding each and every step of every moment, finding that resolve to be move forward. And when you think about it, just don't surrender. Um, it's like part of us is it's this defiance within us that sometimes we kind of need to instigate that. We got to press a few buttons within ourselves to find that will, to find that strength, to keep going. Just there's an old saying, I know you may well have heard of it, put one foot in front of the other. And it sounds quite simple, doesn't it? And it's an old saying, we've been around for donkey's years, but there's actually a hell of a lot of wisdom in that saying. Because what it's really telling you is to be in that present moment, to be here, to be present. Just put one foot in front of the other, one after the other. And that is how we can get ourselves through the most turgid, trying times because our focus is just getting through to the next part, getting through to the next part. And while we're doing that, we are present. When you are in that present moment, when you're right here, right now, everything else becomes almost distant chatter. The past is in the past because you are focused on just being here, being moment. You've got your duty, you're going to step one foot in front of the other. Doesn't matter about the future. Whatever the future has in store, you're still going forward. Boom, boom, boom. Our lives will always unfold one step after the other, one breath after the other, one heartbeat after the next heartbeat. And if we can learn to drop into that space, that present moment, truly we can do our mental health a lot of good because we're just letting it go up there a little bit. Let it float away a bit, don't allow yourself to get bogged down. And I get it. People are going to say, yeah, but Gaz, life is flipping hard right now. It's tough, and 100%, it is tough. And but again, we come to perception what is tough. When we have a choice, which will hopefully I will look into that a little bit later. But the main thing is we can. It's almost like our own little inner medicine ball. Have like a little draft of this medicine, let it float down, and just tell yourself, I am present. I am present as much as you can. And this comes especially important when we are in those trials, when things are really coming up at us in all directions, to give ourselves a good, a good spirit, a fighting chance, because don't surrender yet. It's got a defiance, isn't it? So defiance that says, buggy you, I'm not going to blooming well be trampled all over. It's that fiery spark within us that won't do that. And this is a great way of cultivating that, finding that strength to get that way. And with just a simple practice of just reminding yourself, be present. Not going to the future, not worried about what's going to happen there, because worry again is another sort of like factor that holds us back, and stress because it just starts spiraling, doesn't it? Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a panacea, a magic bullet for all your problems. Problems happen, and one way or another, we do our best to go through those problems. But we give ourselves the best chance if we allow ourselves to do it from a place of freedom, a place of love. Even though we know we may be going into barbed wire or, good old thorns that could do us sort of some sort of damage. If we can do it from a place of love, a place of clarity, then maybe we can find a shortcut through there. Maybe. I'm not saying you will, but maybe. Give yourself a chance with your eyes open because you're aware. You're aware of those scenarios. And I'd like also to kind of like just give you the opportunity right now, because I like to give a little thank you to all you people who keep turning up to these videos, and it's lovely. I'm seeing a nice little up spike. Got a long way to go. I'm in humble beginnings, but as my gift to you, I love writing. Those who know me, like sort of like I like the old written word, and I'm actually putting a little few booklets together that I will be putting on sale to show you how I can bring these little haikus and really kind of like build on what we're seeing here. This is what I'm doing. I'm building on this haiku, giving hopefully you some value that can just make you think. If I make you think, my job's done. That that is what it's all about. If you've got this far, my job is done. Even if you click off in the next 10 seconds, that's fine. At least I've hopefully sparked something in you. But if you put in the comments word, I will gladly send you a little kind of like extrapolation of one haiku and the kind of thing that I'm doing, free of charge. What I ask for is your email address and we'll send that off to you. But if you put word, I'll get back to you and show you how to do that. And hopefully you'll find that wisdom. And like I say, it's no charge for you at all. It's just something you can read and maybe from time to time, it might just give you a little bit of guidance when you need it. But that's my gift for you today. Just like I say, just put in word in the comments below and it gives me the up chance just to give you a little bit of gratitude. I always believe in a two-way following. So you're taking the kindness to come and watch me. The least I can do is give you something back. Okay, and then we come to the next line here. But in the midst of a trial, now, I'm not talking about going to court here. Maybe it could be a trial in court. But in the midst of a trial, we will find many little trials that come along in our lives. Some major big ones that we've got to come through. I'm talking about, illnesses, situations where we suddenly find ourselves insecure, a little bit lost at sea almost. Um, and sometimes it could be trivial. It could be trivial, like you've lost your money for the parking meter. Well, it's probably not trivial at the time. Everybody getting quite annoyed. But these are the little things we come along and sort of like thinking how we deal with that. So let's look at some of the big ones. Um, let's imagine once again we are lost at sea. Let's put it as a scenario. Why not? So you're on the boat and you hit some sort of rock, and you find yourself there's all sorts of tumult and chaos going on. You find yourself in the ocean, and you think like, goodness me, what would you do in that scenario? Now, if you had no fight in you, you would just wait for the sharks to come and eat you. Just say, oh, that's it. Or you could look around. You look around. Look, is there a lifeboat around? No. Is there a bit of wood or something? Oh, look, hey, there's some kind of wood. I can hang on to that. A bit like oh, yeah, can't think of the film with Tom Hanks in it, Castaway. You get on that piece of wood and you do your best to try and stay afloat and hope maybe that you'll find land or someone will find you. And as luck would have it, there's an island in the distance. You get on that island and you find your very own Wilson or whatever you want to do. But it's like we have this choice, don't we? We try and fight our way out and then we ask the universe, hey, I don't want to go just yet. I've got my life to live here. Are you going to help me out here so I can truly make the most of this experience? Or are you just going to leave me to just, oh well, that's it then. And this is where that little fight, that little spark of life comes out. So a scenario that could, and it's unlikely, I'll admit that, but it is feasible, where we come along. So thinking of another thing that maybe is a little bit more relevant for us. Um, and this isn't a nice one, but it is a trial at the end of the day. These are ordeals that do happen in our lives. You may think you're in the most perfect relationship, you come home to find your partner's cheated on you. I mean, that is a huge trial. Everything, your whole world, something gets turned upside down, and it's like, well, what would you do in that scenario? Now, I'm not talking about condoning nasty acts of violence or anything like that, whether that be deserved or not. It's more a case of what you do, how you cope, because straight away, if you're in a real deep loving relationship, it's gonna rip you, rip your heart out, isn't it? It's like that trust has gone, and that really is where we find out what we're made of. And it's like you find that quality of don't surrender, because that's the time when you can literally implode and go to pieces. And it does happen. People do. They have this tremendous emotional upheaval, and it is horrible. It is horrid to have that darkness, for want of a better word, go through you to really put you under the most intense pressure and tear your world apart. And it's how you come through that, don't you? And this is where, don't ever say this to anyone going through this scenario, by the way, but it's more instructional for us. Because if you was to say to someone, oh, go in your heart, heal within, you probably get a punch on the nose. I don't advocate that. But it's more kind of for our own knowledge, and God forbid that ever happens to you. I truly hope it doesn't. But in that side, we got to recognize, try and get in the present moment as much as we can. Listen to that as much as you can, as because even though that's breaking, you'll still get that guidance for you on how to the next stage through. Um, and it is there we find our own truth. And it's later when things settle down that we come to an understanding why we went through that. You're not going to get that understanding while you're in the midst of it. It's virtually impossible. It's almost like you're playing a role. It's like a stage play, and unfortunately, the actor, the protagonist, is you. And it's like you've got to do your part, play your part. And it's later on you get the understanding of why that happened. And it could well be that later you'll meet someone that is the most perfect ideal partner who doesn't cheat on you. But it's almost like you had to go through that scenario to reach that utopia. Because then when you do find someone that's perfect, this one who wasn't, you see the difference. You won't know the difference if you just went straight to the perfection. You don't really learn from that, do you? And this is almost like your soul contract for upstairs, if you like, when you incarnate. Your soul doesn't really have too much worry about the physical sense. It's coming down for an adventure, and it'll go like, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to experience what's heartbreak about. I don't understand it. I've not had that in my lifetime yet. Can you teach me that, please? And that doesn't help us when we're here. We're going through it. And you're thinking like, geez, this is causing us so much trouble. But the soul is going, oh, wow, this is new. I've not had this before. It made me thinking, ooh, making me feel a bit odd. And but all the while, it is learning. It is evolving. And this is why we get those challenging scenarios, don't we? Because we can't know the good unless we see the bad. It's the good and bad in ourselves. In fact, I want to say, forget about our perception of good and bad. It just is. There's this, there's this. It just is. But what we'll do, we're more likely to gravitate towards the things that give us that higher energy uplift, for want of a better word, because the things we may consider bad have that heaviness, don't they? So rather than think of good and bad, think of heavy energy and light energy. And think that you'd like to get to that light energy because you're free of the burden. So when we start to think in that way, we can take our energy to where we need to. But you're not going to get that unless at times you have a little bit of the yucky stuff thrown our way. The the stuff that dulls our shine. It's like it's necessary. But what do you get when you get mud chucked on you? You get a wash, don't you? Wash it off, and you come again. And that is probably the most glib way of explaining what of that kind of like hard scenario of going through those breakups or whatever. It's kind of, and who knows? I might be told someone who's gone through this very experience or witnessed it, and maybe they come through the other side. And it's taught that person about what is good and what is bad. It can, of course, have a really negative effect on us because it teaches us to distrust people, step away, and think I'm never going through that again, which is more than understandable. But then we start getting conflict with the heart energy because the heart energy is all about trust. It is all about unconditional love. And then, we're, in time, if we allow it, the healing will come through for us to trust again. And with a bit of luck, you'll find that magic person that does mean everything to you. It is a hard trial, it's a hard road, and that's what life is about, unfortunately, at times. In the midst of a trial, and the thing is, it's when you've come through the trial that you can look back and think, wow, look what I came through that. And the more the years go by when it happened, it's like you kind of like put that way in the past, don't you? It becomes history. It becomes your personal history that you write in your little book of knowledge that you can pass on. And this is where another facet, a good thing comes from this. You think, what bloody good can come from that, Gary? Partner's just cheated on me. You've been given wisdom. And from that, you get learning. And from that, as you become older, you may well see someone going through what you've gone through, and they looking for someone to a shoulder to cry on, a bit of help. Guess what? If you want to, that's where you come in and hold their hand and literally guide them through that process because you've walked those hard 9 yards. You've gone through it. You can understand perfectly how to help them get through those scenarios. So it is then that you realize, so that's why I was taught this, so I can help others. Because really, that's what we're all about. It is helping ourselves, helping others, giving that kind of kudos, that kind of magic bullet for somebody that just maybe what they need at that time. And if you help that person for just to change their mindset, then you suddenly think, it's bloody hard, but boy, that made me feel so good. So we balance the scales a little bit there, don't we? That is sometimes what it's about. It is about learning. It's about process. It is about moving on because we are always moving on. We are always evolving. Remember, when I come back to the start, one foot in front of the other. It's really important we find that perseverance. And then we come to the final line. You may find a way. So you may find a way. And the perfect thing, what we want is like when we are sort of like in those trials, if we can allow ourselves to be in that space of total freedom, magic things can happen. I'll use another scenario here. I've got a couple of scenarios for you actually. But so there are times when people disappoint you. Let's imagine that you decide to throw a party. You throw a party, you send out all the invites, everything else. You get the cakes, you get the food, everything. Put it all out, RSVP, and you're thinking like, oh, a couple of weeks' time, well, I'm going to have a great night. And literally nobody responds. Now, we're not going down the road of Billy Lobates here. It could be that they've got scenarios going on or whatever. And it makes you feel really, really deflated. You think, why do I bother? What's the point of it or of me doing anything? Whenever I'm nice to someone, they just throw it back in my face. And it could be as well that there could be people around you where you're just trying to be nice to them and you get no thanks. Work is great for that, isn't it? How many places of work do you go to where you do your job and the manager never ever says thank you? And you think, flipping out, why do I bother? Yeah, it is that kind of like energy what we got we can get. And it's intrinsic of the human being to feel like that. The human wants that kind of like gratitude. It's like, it craves it, doesn't it? The trick is to try and get above that. Try and rise above it. And and here we come to the heart space again, because the heart is all about just unconditionally doing something. It doesn't, that doesn't worry about things coming back at it because it just wants to give. It wants to give and it wants to experience that love. And giving is the ultimate theme. Now, I totally agree. There ought to be an exchange of energy. There ought to be an exchange of energy. But if we can rise above that, get into that space where we can like give our energy freely without kind of thinking about anything in return, believe you me, that is high vibrational energy right there. Now, I'm not saying for you to be a doormat to people, just to give your time and energy willy-nilly, because you do need to protect your energy. But ultimately, when you do something for someone, try not to think, oh, they're going to do that for me. If I do that for them, they'll do that for me. Just give it. Give it. And if the flow is right, it will come back to you because you're giving it freely. You're giving your time, your energy freely, and there will be that exchange. And if that exchange doesn't come, well, that's not on you. That's beholden to the other parties to do their part. But the main thing is try to get above the human side, the human self, because then that energy is just, it's due in flow. You're in flow. And as soon as you do something, go put your attention to something else. Just, it's like almost forget about it. That's that word. Forget about it. It's done. Try not to worry too much about that. Worry is, well, you notice I said that word worry. Do not drop into that energy. It's one of the old Reiki precepts that we use just for today. Do not worry. So let's not go there. And what we ultimately want as well, if we can get, we often say the mind is a problem and the heart space, we should always drop into that. How wonderful would it be if we can harmonize the brain with the heart? And it gives us that iron will. And I'm going to give you an example where that can happen. So imagine a marathon runner is doing well, he or she, they're doing well, and suddenly they hit that thing that's called the wall. You hear it, don't you, where marathon runners suddenly come up and suddenly everything just seizes up. Their breathing becomes ragged. Everything starts to ache. Every step is agony. They get blisters on their feet and they might be running over cobbles and every step is like, ow, oh, ow. And it's like, and then there's this battle going on because the body now, as this part of the body is screaming and saying like, maybe we should just pull up. We can't go on like this. And for some people, that is the right thing to do. Remember, we don't do judgment on this channel. Someone has to stop. That's their prerogative. But there's a lot, and it's probably the vast majority, who kind of like think, no, no, I'm not quitting. And then the brain starts getting this defiance. It starts talking to the heart. And the heart is saying, yeah, we want to do this. We've decided to do this. And then it starts talking to the brain. And the brain's saying, yeah, okay, what are we going to do about this? It's almost like there's a little program, sub-program going on. And then the brain and the heart start saying, okay, well, let's get some more, fluid running perhaps down the arms and the legs. Let's get them pumping a little bit more. That pain down there, let's turn that off. Let's see if we can do something about turning that off and focus instead right back to the start, one foot in front of the other, getting to that finish line. And then you see it. This is amazing transformation can happen. These people running suddenly they become fresh again. They get that second wind. How often do you hear about athletes getting that second wind, getting that drive, and they're suddenly, they're moving forward, running with freedom, and they get to the finish line, and it's just this amazing release of victory. They said, yes, did it. I flipping did it. I won, not won the race, but they won their own personal battle, and that is sometimes sums up life, doesn't it? It can be a personal battle. Now, I'm not saying that our lives have to be a trial, of course not. We'd like to think that there's lots of nice things that go on in our lives, and they are the highlights. It's like the ultimate light energy, which is what we're pushing for. But there will be times when the dark energy, and the truth is, the dark energy is there to help us get more into that light energy. We cannot experience that unless we've had the heavy stuff. And therefore, we go through that, try and find our way through the, like I say, what's the last line I put? I'll look again. Through the wave. Try to find a way through the maze of life. That is how we achieve what we want. There you go, guys. So we're at the end. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Remember, if you put in word in the comments, I will send you this. It's only a little 1,500 words or so, a little PDF to give you a clue as to what I'm working on. And if you like what I'm working on, you might think, oh, I wouldn't mind a copy of that. You know, I'll bear you in mind for that. But if you got this far as well, write marathon at the end, just for a little bit of fun. So I know you've taken this on board. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much for stopping by, having a little visit, and I'll catch you at the next one. Much love. See you soon.